Well, hello, everybody. It's Rick Bassman here live from Maui as usual, but in a whole different location than is usual. I'm in a professional studio today. So here's what that means for us, hopefully. It means great connectivity. Thank you very much for my good friend Jason making this happen for us. And it means, for better or for worse, no explosions of barking pit bulls today. And here's why. The show that we're going to go with, the event today, is called the Cancer Warriors. You know that, and this is this is serious stuff. It's real stuff, and the topic and the guests that we have on today, in my humble opinion, are deserving of making sure that we have it together from our side, at least vis-a-vis the connection and the pit bulls. So, as you know, we've assembled a group. There's 7 of us in total, and our 6 guests today are extremely powerful individuals, and then collectively as a group. I'm pretty blown away. We managed to get everybody together. We've been chatting for a couple minutes, getting to know one another before we went live here. And now I can feel the vibe already. It's going to be a pretty darn amazing thing. And here's why. Well, there's a lot of reasons why, but here's what I'm seeing and here's what I'm feeling. Everybody on that you're going to see today has been through or is going through the worst of the worst. And if you follow them, as I do, and as many of us watching do, what you see are 6 very bright lights, people that are in the game of life and winning the game of life on their own terms, no matter what life is throwing in front of them. And there are so many of you out there, and I count myself among them, that at times or often can take an opposite approach. And that's not an indictment on anybody. It's how many of us react to life. And I'm convinced that today there's going to be some incredible lessons learned and some real inspiration provided by and from the guests. How to encounter the worst of the worst and come out the other side stronger than ever. That's very much our goal today. And we're going to try something new here. As you know, I'm talking tough. We're very conversational. We don't really do interviews per se. We are going to open the show with a bit of a format. We're going to bring each person on individually, get to know them for a few minutes, then we'll bring the whole group on together for a talking tough style conversation. And one of the first things I'll be asking each person, so you can really appreciate what they've been through or are going through, and there's a note I want to make about that quickly. Of the 7 of us on today, 4 of us are in remission. Most from stage 4, most that were given life sentences, as myself was. I was at one time given a prognosis of 6 months survival. So of the group on today, 4 are in remission, 3 are right in the thick of battle. And they're kicking some serious ass, pardon the language, but that's just, that's what comes to mind. They'll each tell you their cancer story to create with you the impression that, and it's a real thing, that no matter what anybody out there has and is going through, there's somebody else out there that's going through it also that gets it. And the goal today, I'll just be really transparent and really heavy-handed about this. The goal today is to instill hope in anybody out there who could use a little bit of hope or a lot of hope. That's very much the goal. So as I mentioned, everybody's going to tell their cancer story. That's how you'll get to know us, what we went through, what we are going through. So I'm going to attempt to do mine very briefly. At 16 years of age, I was diagnosed very suddenly with testicular cancer. Now, in those days, or these days, they don't attribute a stage 4 to testicular cancer. Back then, it was quickly termed terminal. The reason being, after they removed the testicle, we went and did every test known to man or that was available to the medical profession 40 years ago, quickly found out it had absolutely engulfed both of my lungs. And that started me on a 3-year journey that included 4 very major surgeries and pretty much nonstop, very high-level poisonous chemotherapy. And as I write in my book, I would absolutely take a major surgery where I'm cut from waist to top of the chest over 1 round of chemotherapy any day. Here's a little bit of what that 3 years looked like for me. I'm 16. I'm in high school. My mom had passed very suddenly not long before. I was very stressed about that. I went to a school where I ended up being the only Jewish person in a Catholic school, and ended up being not the shortest boy, but the shortest kid in school. So I got picked on a lot that first year and fought every single day, literally every day. And I think those fights and my mom dying probably put me in a position where I gave cancer to myself. It's the only explanation. And I bring that up, not really to bury myself, but as an indicator of how I handled things for the next 3 years, which was not well. Very opposite, I think, of how our 6 guests today have encountered their own battle. I look back now at what I did, and I would do it all differently now. God forbid I ever have to again. But because of people like the guests that we have on today, there's so much knowledge and so much example about how you can win this battle. So in a 3-year battle that I underwent myself, there's about 1,000 nights in 3 years. I spent about 800 nights as an inpatient, and that's because the chemo I was given was so poisonous, you really cannot function at all. I was constantly hooked up to an IV. And I have a lot of stats that I figured. I figured over that 3 years, I was stuck with a needle about 4,000 times. And I know that sounds like an absolute ridiculous exaggeration, but when you think about the various injections, the blood draws, when your veins collapse, they've got to stick you 5, 6, 7, 10 times to get a vein. Those numbers add up pretty quickly. I was small back then. I was 125 pounds in 10th grade when I was diagnosed. At the very end of my 3-year battle, I went down to 85 pounds. I looked like a concentration camp survivor. I don't really know how else to put it. I didn't have an entire hair on my entire body. That included eyebrows. I mean, not a hair anywhere. And I basically felt like the Walking Dead for 3 years. The chemo going through my veins would feel literally like my veins were burning and being ripped apart from the inside out. Another seeming exaggeration, I would throw up 40 or 50 times a day. The first couple times, it's phlegm or bile, whatever's in your body. After that, it's just dry and it racks your guts from the inside out. I could go on and on, paint a picture, make it sound horrible. It was horrible. Ironically, I went through another 3-year life-threatening medical battle just a few years ago, 2013 to 16. It was not cancer related, and I'm not going to get into what it was. It doesn't matter. But why having gone through it matters to me now is at that time in my life, everything was different. I thought about employing the things I think we'll hear a lot about today: good diet, good support system, faith, all the things that can make you win today. So in any case, diagnosed January of my 16th year. My final day in the hospital was on my 19th birthday. That was my second remission after one recurrence. It's over 40 years ago. I'm 59 years old now. I'm in the best shape of my life. Physically, certainly, I believe, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all that as well. And a lot of that is because of the work I get to do now and engaging with the type of people that we have joining us today. So with that, let's get ready to meet our first guest on the Cancer Warriors. And I'm going to throw to our great producer, John Paz. John, could you please bring up Jennifer Abrahamson? Jennifer, there you are.
There I am. Hello, Rick. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And your lighting, we were talking before everybody went live, you guys. Your lighting looks good.
Great. It's Abraham, not Abrahamson, but that's okay.
I was trying to get her name straight, everybody, as well. Hopefully that would be the only name mistake. We have had a chance to talk on occasion leading up to today, and it's been really cool getting to know you. Appreciate you're joining us today. You look great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing terrific. Fantastic.
Very glad to hear that. Now let's hear the opposite side of that. Could you tell us about your experience with cancer? What's your cancer story?
I was diagnosed at the age of 36 after I had just given birth to my first daughter. And in the delivery room, the obstetrician noticed something on my leg and told me to check it out. And it turned out to be melanoma. Told me not to have any more children, but of course I had another child. And during that pregnancy, I ended up getting thyroid cancer. The thyroid cancer was pretty invasive, so it was a little bit tricky. And I had multiple rounds of radiation, and was great. It was great for a really long time. And then again in 2013, I was diagnosed with leukemia. And because of the prior cancers, I was told that there was no treatment options for me. That my best bet would be to kind of sit tight and wait and hope that research and the powers that be came up with a cure. So there was no cure, but I waited about 4 years. I was pretty sick for about 4 years, and finally was able to get one of the chemos that I wanted became approved. So I went on that chemo for 2 years. It actually turned against me, and I developed a fourth cancer during that. So I had to come off that, and was able to get really quickly on a clinical trial. And it is actually what's almost 2 years to the date that I started the clinical trial. So that is my cancer story.
So you had 4 types of cancer in this short period of time, and were told there was no cure during the process.
So I consider it 3 because the fourth one was never brought to fruition. It was just found, and I had surgery, and it was kind of obliterated, but maybe 3.5. But when I was first diagnosed with leukemia, they told me because of the prior cancers that all of the options that were in front of me were not an option for me. I could have done a stem cell transplant, but I had a 50% chance of a 20% chance of surviving a stem cell transplant. And here I am, I was 48 years old. I had 2 young girls at the time, and I wasn't going to go for those odds. So that was kind of it.
And you're celebrating a recent remission date, aren't you?
I am, yeah. February 2nd, I had a telehealth call with my doctor, and it was January 26th. I had all my scans. I had gone into the hospital, had all my scans, my bone marrow biopsies, and she told me I was in a deep remission, and I could hope to be in that for about 4 or 5 years. But for me, 4 or 5 years is 40 or 50. So it's.
And here you are.
I never expected it, honestly. I never expected it. They didn't expect it. The chemo that I was on. I mean, unlike you, the chemo is so toxic. But unlike you, it really, I needed it. I refused to not be able to mother my 2 daughters. I was a single mother, so I would have swallowed gasoline if they told me it would help.
Around for your daughters. That's a beautiful motivator, no doubt about it. I'm going to ask you. I want to point something out to people watching and listening out there. At the risk of sounding dramatic, if you look at Jennifer and I side by side right now, that's 2 for 2 who were given death sentences, and here we are doing okay. I think. How are you doing now? How's life looking for you these days?
So I'm living my best life. I'm going to be 56. I'm literally living my best life. I was one of those people, to be diagnosed with cancers after the birth of your only 2 children is incredibly traumatic. And I felt like there's got to be some lesson in that somewhere. I'm a psychotherapist by trade. I work with people. I advocate for people all the time. So I started off, it was 20 years ago, advocating for myself and trying to figure out how to live a life with cancer, because not living was not an option.
And I know you're doing great work in the cancer space now. Can you tell us about that?
So so I work with people all day long, actually, and I hope I inspire them and give them and empower them to live their best lives. And I started a brand called Brave is Now, and basically, when I was not feeling as positive as I am right this second, I thought that my girls were going to have to learn the lessons of life and love and struggle on their own. And I became almost paralyzed with the fear of thinking that they weren't going to have the lessons that I could give them. So I started writing and traveling with them and taking photos and writing little kind of inspirational blurbs based on the things that were going on in my life and in their lives. And they started posting them, and it became this whole Brave is Now sort of thing. And it's really exciting, and people really resonated with Brave is Now, and I trademarked it.
It's a great name. It really
It's
is.
a great name, right?
And you probably see it, courtesy of John.
Oh, I do see it. Okay, thank you,
Scrolling
John.
across the screen right there. And Jennifer, I'd definitely love to have you back for a one-on-one sometime, and we'll like do a deep dive into it. I know there's a lot to talk about with Brave is Now, but it's great work you're doing there. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. And now we're you get to go hang out in the green room, the virtual green room, for a while, and look forward to seeing you again in a few minutes. And it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you a man who is becoming so well known out there for so much good work, while he himself is in the thick of the battle. Let's please welcome Chuck Keels.
Hey, Rick.
Chuck, how you doing? Nice haircut, man. I like that.
Well, you don't want to know what it's from? Not to be like Rick. No, that's not a bad thing.
I had to do it too.
My wife is in the battle right now. We met through cancer. She actually is stage 4 breast cancer. And when her hair started falling out on her pillow and in the shower, I did it to support her. So this is the second time in my life that I had to shave mine. And the first time, of course, was through my own personal journey.
Can you tell us, what did your personal journey look like? What's your cancer story?
Wow. So basically in 2015, I just turned 50 years old. I owned a landscaping business in Phoenix, Arizona, and I, got to work in people's front and backyards all year round in the beautiful, mountains and blue skies and warmth after moving from Ohio out to here 20 years ago. This was my lifestyle, and this is what I did. But I noticed I wasn't feeling too great, and I didn't know what it was. And I'm not a big aspirin or pill taker or anything, but I noticed that I started having enough pain that I started to manage it with aspirin. And the aspirin worked with the pain for just a few weeks. And then basically the pain was outrunning the aspirin. So on a Friday night after I took my boys out to eat, I went to the local hospital and I said, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm tired. I'm losing weight. I don't know what's going on. And I went in and they start running scans and tests. And the first test that comes back very fast is just your typical x-ray. And the emergency room doctor sticks her head in my room and says, you've got 2 fractured vertebrae in your back. I was like, what are you talking about? I haven't fallen. Who walks around with a broken back? So at 5 a.m, she came in, shut the door, sat a stool down next to me, and she started looking at me. She said, I got bad news. I'm looking at all the scans, and everything that you're going through is cancer related. That's the first time I heard the word cancer. My head starts spinning. I asked her how bad, what kind of cancer, all these things. She said, we don't know yet. We're bringing in specialists tomorrow to actually get into the testing stage. So the specialists come in and they do biopsies into the bone marrow, lymph nodes, and I get sent home. So my family and people around me knew the word was cancer. We just didn't know how bad or what kind. So 3 days go by and I get a phone call and I end up back at the hospital in a room with the specialist and a couple other doctors. And the specialist, he just looked at me when I walked in the room and he says, I can't believe you just walked in here. He said, the scans show you have cancer in 90% of the bones in your body. He said, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this before in my life. He said, it's so bad, we don't know where it originated. We don't know what kind of cancer it is. We can't tell you what kind of cancer it is because you're so saturated with cancer right now. He said, you're at stage 4. There's nothing we can do about it. Just go home and be with your family. You might have 3 months to live. 2015, guys. So I go home. I have to tell my 2 high school boys that the docs told me I had 3 months to live. As you can absolutely imagine, the nightmare of what was going on and the emotional things that start to happen in your brain when the word cancer is introduced to your life. And then to make things a little bit worse, I get a knock on my door that night, and it's 2 hospice nurses. So I was put in a hospice. I have 2 hospice nurses on my living room couch in tears. And they're writing me prescriptions for pain meds and a hospital bed to sit in my living room so I didn't have to climb my flight of stairs because I was in that much pain. Over the next couple of weeks, I started planning on a trip back to Ohio just to spend time with my mom and dad and people I love. And in that time period, my body started shutting down. The pain went unbelievable. I just couldn't imagine this type of pain of just getting up to walk across the room. And also my body shutting down to the point that I don't talk about it a lot, but if anybody knows out there what a coffee enema is, I didn't have a choice. My body was shutting down. Okay. So we planned on a trip back to Ohio to spend those last few days with my family. And on the day I was supposed to leave Phoenix, Arizona, I walked down the hall and something popped and I hit the floor. The fire department got me off the floor, got me to the closest hospital. They started running tests, and in a day and a half, they came back in my room with 2 spinal surgeons, a cancer doctor, a house doctor, and a house administrator. And the reason why the 2 spinal surgeons were there is because they said you suffered a compression fracture. The pop you heard when you hit the floor, your bones was being damaged, metastasis was happening throughout my body, and my back got to the point where it just said, I cannot hold you up any longer. I hit the floor. They said, we're going to fight this. We're doing 2 surgeries tomorrow, and we're starting chemo the next day. I went through 2 surgeries. They put my port in. They did an orchiotomy, which also they said for the first time I heard it was prostate cancer, and cancer goes to where it's fed, and it went all over your body through your bone marrow and your lymph nodes. And so they did an orchiotomy because they said that my testosterone was inflaming and feeding the cancer. So their philosophy was, if we can stop the feeding of the cancer and then start chemo the next day and start killing the cancer, I might have a chance. And I'm all in for a fight. So I say, let's do it. Let's do it. So the next day they roll me into surgery. I go through 2.5 hours of surgery. I'm in the recovery room at an older hospital here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm laying flat on my back. I'm awake now. The docs came in and explained to me that my surgeries went perfect. Just brought me a glass of water and said, hey, your family's upstairs waiting for you. You're going to be seeing them in a couple minutes. And as I'm laying there watching everything going on around me, this recovery room turns weird, bone-chilling cold for no reason. And as I scrunch up, and the first thing I did was looked off to my right because that's where there's a big set of doors down there. And I thought maybe somebody opened the doors and let the cold air in, but the doors were shut. And as I looked back to the left, I jumped, and Jesus in a brown robe, white scarf, his beard and his face was standing 4 feet from me. I'm just froze. His right foot takes a half a step out. His hand reaches out and touches me on the shoulder. And I heard, I got you. And then he's gone. 3 or 4 seconds. I'm flipping out. I know it wasn't a doctor, a nurse, a janitor in the room. I was in the presence of Jesus. And a lot of people ask me, what was my walk before this? I was not on track with Christianity, faith. I had a foundation. I believed. But I was, I'd rather be out on a hike or a mountain bike ride on a Sunday morning. You wouldn't probably see me sitting in a church.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot more about this as we move on, and it's amazing the experience that you had, and that's, I think, obviously what's fueled you to a large degree to today. What is your status now today? You look so good, you sound so good, but I understand you're facing it still each day. Well,
so basically,
for you now.
I wouldn't say I'm facing it, but the medical industry says I'm facing it.
Okay.
So, and what that I mean is I still go for every 6 months for my checkup, and my doctor smiles every time I walk in there, because I healed so fast after this vision and after my journey. And I did do 6 months of chemo, but 3 months into the chemo, my blood tests were coming back like a normal, healthy guy. And
That's
my doctor said, this is not a journey with medicine. This is a miraculous journey.
Yep.
And I said, well, what am I? What am I? And she said, I will never, ever stamp you in remission or cancer free because of how bad it was.
Okay.
And so that's why I say I'm a survivor, but
Yep.
the medical industry says I'm a thriver.
Oh, I think they're both great. I think they're both great. And how old are you now, Chuck?
I'm 55. I'll be 56 in a couple weeks.
That I think we're going to know each other for a long time, and that's a great story. Thank you. And I know that, and I know we're doing a show a couple of weeks from now with you, I and Hannah together. I'm really looking forward to that. And apologize for cutting the story short. We'll get into so much detail, and I really look forward to it. Thank you. And
absolutely.
And I know, like Jennifer, you're doing great work in the cancer space. Can you give us the elevator pitch on the Living Hope Cancer Foundation?
Yeah, I met somebody. I was coaching her with her cancer. We fell in love and got married. We pushed our desks together and said, what do you do with this? We're already helping people all over the country. We're already getting phone calls from all over the place. We launched a 501c3 nonprofit called Living Hope Cancer Foundation. Go on there, and we deal with what we call the positive spiritual mindset of cancer when you're going through the battle. And so there's something really cool on there called the Cancer Roadmap Project, which is 40 videos that anybody in the world can give to anybody. They're on the website, they're on YouTube, and it's 40 videos to coach people through their journey during and even after, and the mindset and the depression and all the stuff we get to deal with this cancer crazy world. We coach.
Thank you, Chuck. I've been looking at the videos myself. I love them. The link is crawling across the bottom of the screen here as we're talking about it. Everybody, I strongly encourage you to go take a look at, as you also should, at Jennifer's platform, Brave As Now. There's some great resources here. Chuck, thank you. If you wouldn't mind hanging out backstage for a few, we'll bring the whole group on in just a bit. Thank you. All right. As we keep moving forward, all the way from the exotic beach lands of Tulum, Mexico, our friend froze out for a second there. John, are we okay on sound? I have a freeze from my side. Okay, we're good.
You're good. Yep.
Thank you. All the way from Tulum, Mexico, Amanda Kelly.
Hello.
Hey, Amanda, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much for inviting me on here. It's like such an honor to be involved in this and to be part of this group. I'm super thrilled to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, I was really excited when you agreed to join us, especially all the way from Mexico, where I know, like Maui, connectivity is sometimes an issue, but you look great, you sound great. So Here we go.
Yes.
And clearly you're doing great. You have $1 million smile, so I don't even ask how you're doing. Let's dive into the scary stuff. I know you had a hell of a fight, a cancer story, as we call it. Will you share with us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, we all have our own unique journeys, but mine is a little different in that I wasn't stage 4 when I was diagnosed. I was stage 2B bulky non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but I basically had a grapefruit-sized growth inside of my chest, and it was compressing my heart and my lungs. And just for perspective, I'm 5'2" on a good day and rather petite, so it was massive. And the thing is that my story started because I actually called my doctor saying I needed a CT scan. That's not how things normally go. So the background is I was 30. I was super fit. I was healthy. I was active. I was a yogi who could touch her toes to her head and do a handstand at the same time. I was super flexible, background as a gymnast. I'd been a vegetarian for like 8 years. At face value, I was like the healthiest person people knew. So it was literally a shock to everybody when we found out that at the age of 30, I was being diagnosed with cancer. I had this giant growth inside my chest. And so what led up to me calling the doctor was I was having all sorts of minor but annoying and persistent symptoms, like a cough that wouldn't go away, and then this really minor pain in my chest that progressively got just a little bit worse, a little bit worse. It was winter. I was living in Manhattan. I was stressed. I chalked it up to all of that. And to be like, my doctor did too. And to be fair, like, you know, looking at my profile, he wouldn't jump to cancer. So, I certainly don't blame anybody for not catching anything sooner. But it was right after Thanksgiving I first noticed a minor pain. I was diagnosed 5 years ago this month, actually. I had my first CT scan. So it was just that spring, basically. So fast forward a few months. And what triggered me to call is that I was having a hard time lying down on my back. My cough was getting worse. I couldn't lie down on my left side without having excruciating pain. And I was like, what is good? But it progressed pretty quickly at that point. By the point I was experiencing all that pain, it had progressed very quickly at that point. It wasn't like I was dealing with excruciating pain for a long time. The cough was the major symptom. But my uncle passed away from cancer, and that night I woke up with sharp shooting pain in my left shoulder. And I woke up, and that morning I was like, I can't mess with this. I'm gonna research all my symptoms, and I self-diagnosed based on Google, thank you very much, with a pulmonary embolism, which is not what it was, but I wouldn't entertain cancer. So I called up, I was like, I need a CT scan this afternoon. The receptionist says it doesn't work that way. But I went in, he had me get an x-ray, he said to come up. He pulled up the x-ray and just went, And they turned the screen and he said, see all this white film over your left lung? I have no idea what that is. It looks like you were in that CT scan after all. And I was like, well, I didn't really want to be right about it, but I'm really darn glad I listened to my intuition. So we're at the airport the next morning on our way to my uncle's funeral, and I got a call from the hospital saying I need to schedule a PET scan. And I was like, what's that? And she paused. She was like, you haven't spoken to your doctor yet? And I was like, no, it's 9 a.m. And I called, and he was in with the patient. So the receptionist had him email me the results, which indicated a giant growth inside my chest. And then we scheduled the PET scan. Meanwhile, I was at my uncle's funeral, like, oh my God, this is not okay. And he was the 7th of my dad's immediate family members to die from cancer. So his parents, 4 of his siblings, and my cousin had already passed from cancer. And of his siblings, none of them had made it to 70 yet. So I was quite terrified of what was going on inside of me, and it was giant, and it was very uncomfortable. And my sister was getting married in 6 months, and we had been hoping that my uncle would at least make it to the wedding, and he went within days. And I just knew I couldn't mess with anything. So before I even knew it was cancer, before I had that PET scan, I started treating it as if it was cancer. So I did everything under the sun I could find. I started researching, going down every single rabbit hole I could find, yes, on Google, but I really listened to my intuition. I have a background in psychology. I have a background in biology. So research is actually one of my strengths. I had been to grad school. I knew what to research. I knew how to use Google Scholar and all of that. So I wasn't doing this in a random vortex of internet, not intel.
Yes, we all could go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So what? Oh, and I hate to interrupt you. I'm sorry. And I really would love to do a one-on-one with you and get so into all this. So what was your ultimately your diagnosis, and what did you do to treat that brings you to present day?
I had non-Hodgkin's, primary mediastinal non-Hodgkin's B-cell lymphoma. So it was a small subset of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. It was a very fast-growing, aggressive one. So from the CT scan to the PET scan, it had already grown a centimeter in each direction. That was 1 week apart. So it was growing very aggressively, very quickly. So they treated it very aggressively. I had 600 hours of chemo. So just to go back quickly, very quickly, my family members had all passed away just as much from the treatment, the harsh treatment. So I was terrified of the chemo.
Mhm.
I went ahead with the chemo, but that's why I was doing everything under the sun, because I was like, if there's any chance I can avoid it, I'm going to. It was too fast growing for me to avoid it. So I wound up doing this holistic, unbeknownst to my doctor largely. I took on all of these other practices, but yes, it was a subset of primary mediastinal non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I did have a good prognosis, but it had immunotherapy, but it was 6 rounds, 100 hours each round. So I was inpatient 4 days at a time, and I was hooked up to the infusion 24/7. And one round I got an infection, so I was in the hospital for 9 nights, and that was really uncomfortable. But we all have our little blips on the journey.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, anyway, it was quite a ride.
and here you are, full of energy, obviously, and it comes across in everything I see about you in social media, which is amazing. It's fun to watch your journey. How's life treating you these days? How are you feeling?
Well, I have a motto: the better it gets, the better it gets. And that's actually how it's been. And I have to say, it hasn't been an easy, smooth journey the whole way. I'm coming up on my 5-year anniversaries. I'm out of treatment about 4.5 years now. And it hasn't been smooth, but it has been an upward spiral, and a consistent upward spiral. And I say spiral because it's not linear, but I feel, honest to God, better than I ever have in my entire life now. And I thought I was in a good spot before, fit and active and, whatever. But now life is so much better because I've been getting deeper and deeper into my own journey and my spiritual path, and all of this is coming together. And my background is psychology, but now I'm actually implementing it, and I'm using my yoga background. I have 3 yoga teaching certifications as well, and I'm just actually pulling everything together in a way that I'm like, life is meant to be amazing and fabulous and brilliant and wonderful. And it's actually blossoming in that way for me, and it feels really good.
Talk about a great living example of things happen for a reason, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you two, you do great work in the cancer space every day. You're inspirational to so many people. John just put your URL up on the screen for us. Can you give us the brief on this art called life?
Yes, so that was actually the name of the blog that I started a few months before I was diagnosed. It was a synchronicity, and then I realized this is actually the perfect name for it. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in synchronicities. I think, deep down, I knew there was something else that was going to unfold in my life. And so I started sharing my journey publicly on my blog just as a more convenient way to keep people updated. And I am a naturally inclined writer, so it was just kind of an outlet for me. But now it's evolved into a mindset and transformation coaching business resource, whatever you want to call it. And I really focus on empowering people to reclaim their lives and truly thrive. And we talk about the nuances between cancer survivor, cancer thriver, cancer warrior. I don't even know what the appropriate term for me is at this point. I'm out of it completely, and I just have this knowing it's never going to come back. And so whatever, I always use the word thriver because survivor just feels like this struggling word to me, and I'm like, no, it's not struggle. So I'd say thriver, but I'm not in the midst of the journey anymore. But I help people on at any point of the journey to really reclaim their power and reclaim their lives, basically.
Well, thank you so much for the work you're doing. I look forward to hearing more of your story as things progress.
Thank you.
And we're going to ask you to step into the green room, the backstage area, and bring up my new friend who is also doing so much great work out there, Trevor Maxwell. Trevor, are you with us?
I'm with you. Hey, Rick.
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm just super grateful to be here with you with this awesome crew of cancer warriors, meet these new friends. I'm living on bonus play, so I'm one of those guys that's still in the thick of the battle, but I feel like I'm on bonus play all the time.
I love that, bonus play. That's a
good.
really cool term. I may have to borrow that from you.
Go for it.
What's going on with you? What's your story related to your cancer experience?
Yeah, so 3 years ago this March, I was diagnosed age 41 with we thought was stage 3 colon cancer at the time. Unfortunately, they didn't see a spot on my liver, so I was already stage 4. Total shock to me. Married with 2 kids. They were our girls were 10 and 12 at the time. We live in Maine, and just total life asteroid basically. And my cancer story really. Do you know Jocko Willink, former Navy?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Jocko is one of my motivational heroes, and I found him at a perfect time in my journey. But he has a line, now that I know how dark it can get, I truly appreciate the light in the world. And my journey went to the darkest place that I could imagine. So within the first 6 to 8 months of being diagnosed, I had colon surgery, my first open liver surgery. I've had 2 of those now, chemo. So just you get put in the chute and you get hit by all this stuff. And physically, that was fine. But the mental piece, the emotional burden of having young kids, being married, having this, all of a sudden going into this world of having a life-threatening illness really derailed me. I found myself, so I was a confident professional. I used to be a journalist, a PR person. And after diagnosis, I got clinical depression, clinical anxiety. There was a point in that first year, 2018, when I remember being on the floor of my girls' room and just inconsolable, crying, weeping, feeling like I was going to die and hopeless, and just not being able to cope with that. Utterly alone, Rick, like just alone. And it's a wretched feeling to be there. And so while I have the chance, I just want to say directly to anyone who's listening to this, if you're in that place, if you're on the floor right now, if you're feeling a lack of hope or no hope at all, I want to tell you I've been there. And I want to tell you that recovery, even though I'm still fighting my cancer, like I'm in a clinical trial right now, I'm in survival mode. Like I'm in a trial and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get to cancer free. But even though I'm still fighting that, I have been able to regain my mental health through love, through community, through all the good stuff. And I want to tell the people who are maybe on their knees that that's possible for them too.
Thank you so much for that, Trevor. I'm watching and listening to each of you, and everybody in their own right, yourself included, are so powerful. And I'm in a weird sort of way glad that you just said what you said, because as I mentioned, I feel my best ever today, for sure, at 59. Yeah. But I was in that place too, man. I was terminally ill. I was depressed. Later in life, addicted. All that led to homelessness. I mean, it was just that all self-induced. I created it. Not blaming anybody.
Yeah, man.
The hits just kept on coming, and I think it's important you mention what you mentioned, because I can't speak for Chuck. I can't speak for Amanda. I can't speak for Jennifer, but I know they too have been in some very, very dark places. And thank you for that, because everybody else out there, if you're in that place, everything and anything is possible. So thank you for that, man.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think sometimes as men, just admitting that, like, it was very shameful. It was shameful because I was surrounded by, I was learning cancer, and I thought everyone who had cancer had it all figured out, and everyone was super positive all the time, and just handling it in a positive way. And here I was not functioning and basically disabled and a wreck, and that just added to my shame. So I think just admitting that, but then also being willing to say, like, hey, you can be there but it doesn't mean that that's going to define you. And you can get up from that. You can absolutely get up from that. And there's no shame in it. Like, that's part of it. I wouldn't have my mindset today. I wouldn't be able to see the light that I see if I didn't go to that place.
So you've obviously made a big switch. You can see it. It's so immediate and so apparent. And you're in the battle, as you said. And dude, I just know that you're going to win this battle. I know that, seeing you and talking to you.
Brother.
Where are you today? What's your
so, I have my tough times. Like, there's still anxiety, there's still fear, there's still dark times, but I don't dwell there. And I face those emotions as they come. And for the most part, life is good. Like, Sage is 15, Elsie's 13. They're busy and active, and we're doing stuff and just living life. Like, they're not going to let me check out again, right? So, and cancer is a teacher. Like, cancer teaches us to really push harder, to not wait. Like, my pre-cancer self would never have done the stuff that I'm doing now because I said, oh, somebody else will do that, or I can't do that, I'm not good enough, or all the excuses. Cancer is, if we look at it as a teacher, cancer burns all those excuses and we just go for it, right? So I feel like in my life, I've kind of been set on fire to just go forward with a mission and also just soak up all the time that I have with my family. Now, I mean, the truth is, tomorrow's not a given to anybody,
No.
So life is good, and we all have our challenges. And I'm, hey, there are some days when I'm down, but then I rally, I get inspiration from the whole cancer community, and then we push forward. Like we say in my cancer group, Man Up to Cancer, we have this hashtag KFG, keep effing going, right?
Yeah, yes, and I'm a member of your group, and I want to bring that up. I know John will appropriately put the URL up for your group. So you've had a big switch. Yep. You are in the thick of it yourself, yet at the same time, you are now doing work to inspire others. Can you give us the quick lowdown on Man Up to Cancer? Yeah,
absolutely. So basically, Man Up to Cancer is a call to action that I started right around the end of 2019, early 2020. And I didn't really know what it was going to be, but what it was is, so the way that I started healing with my mental health was to accept that I needed help, go out and get it. And then my life started changing. So I was go to therapy, go to meet people online. And I noticed that most of the people out there in the cancer land are women. Like, there's a lack of men who are actually accepting help or out there in peer-to-peer networks. And they're missing out on tons of stuff because I learned about my treatment options there. Like, it's not just about, holding hands and support. Like, you learn a lot if you accept help and then try to pay it forward. So Man Up to Cancer is basically my mission to inspire men to avoid isolation during our cancer journeys. If we isolate, we have poor mental health, our relationships suffer, and our medical outcomes suffer. So I have a podcast, website, and a private group on Facebook called The Howling Place.
I'm a member. Yep. I love it. It's a great group.
It's great to have you in there. And basically what it is just general support, camaraderie between any man who's impacted by cancer can be part of our community. And so that's what Man Up to Cancer is. I got to give a quick shout out to my brother, Joe Bullock from Durham, North Carolina. He's the lead admin of the group. So I'm able to do the podcast and the website and all this other stuff because I got my brother, Joe, helping to admin the group, and other guys too, but just wanted to give a shout out. So thanks for letting me do that.
Hey, Joe. Trevor, thank you, man. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. And we're going to have you back on in a few minutes.
Thanks, Rick.
Hey, I wanted to point out real quickly. So our next guest is joining us from Florida on the East Coast. We have people on from 5 time zones on the show here tonight. So thank you, everybody, for accommodating. I know it's late for a lot of you. We are getting through this. It's so far so good. It's great hearing your stories. And with that, on to my new friend joining us from the East Coast, Rosanna Ouellette.
Hey, Rick.
Hey, Rosanna. How you doing?
Hey, I just want to say I am humbled to be here with these stories. These people are amazing. I'm just really humbled when hearing their stories. It's really great.
It's a hell of a group, isn't it? I'm feeling exactly the same way. Thank you for saying that. And and you just enhanced that, I have to say, because I've become familiar with you and your story. So would you mind telling us what's going on with you? Because I know, like Trevor, that you're in the thick of it right now.
Yeah, sure. I had found a lump in my breast a couple of years ago and was told on 2 occasions that it was benign. We'll keep an eye on it. Don't worry about it. So I was shocked when I went back in 2020 and found that I had stage 4 breast cancer. Not only was I in shock and upset with my diagnosis, but I was angry for this misdiagnosis that made me, I could have been maybe a stage 2 or stage 3, and my treatment would have been a lot simpler. So yeah, I was shocked and angry. I mean, I just, the why me? I mean, like Amanda was saying, I was a vegetarian. I worked out. I thought, gosh, I am like the healthiest person I know, not so. So of course I Googled what's the survival rate of stage 4, invasive lobular carcinoma. And it was 22%. Very upsetting to hear that, to see that number, and just really started to think, this is it. I guess, I'm 59. I had just turned 59. I guess it's a pretty long life. I was thinking, if I don't make it, I guess I don't. My doctor had said, maybe we could, that's probably chemo for you, and going through those routes is not the way to go. Let's just get you this Ibrance or whatever it was, put you in some remission, and maybe 5 years. He said, I've even seen people live 10 years. Well, that was a no-go for me. That was very upsetting. And it's interesting, at the time he was telling me that, I looked out in my front yard and there was a bald eagle landed in my yard, which I've never seen one before. So I saw that as a sign that I'm going to be okay. I really did. And I talked to another oncologist who got all my information. He was going to call me back, and you know how that goes. You're waiting for a doctor to call you, waiting around all day. So my sister and I said, well, let's go to the beach, take a walk, clear our heads. And of course he calls while I'm at the beach, and I run under this little pier so I can hear him away from the surf. And he says, I can cure you. I can cure this. I will never forget that as long as I live. And I was like, I didn't say at the time, but you're hired. He put me through an extremely aggressive chemo, which I just ended 3 weeks ago. So I'm still feeling the results of that, obviously. But before that too, you were talking about the stress you were under. I was under a lot of stress, a tough marriage, that I just went through a horrible divorce. I lost both of my parents in that same year. My son is disabled, and it's just a daily stress. So I look back and I think a lot of that stress probably caused this also. But, I went through the why me and how is this fair? And it's just not, but I kind of, and I thought, who's going to be there for my son? I took some pictures of myself with my long hair, just in case, so people would remember me. I mean, I was really going through the stages of grief and thinking, I'm not going to make it here. I guess I'm going to be okay. I mean, I finally decided one day that I got to turn my thoughts around. But like Trevor was saying, I remember, during chemo, filling the water up in the bathtub and crawling to the bathtub and just getting in there and laying there and crying because I was in so much pain. And, psychologically too, that feeling, you just don't know what's going to happen. You want to be in control of things, you want to plan, and there's no control. It's a roller coaster. So it was probably the most stressful thing I've gone through in my life, and I'm still going through it.
Well, I know you're going through, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know you're going through the fight. I know that. And you mentioned a moment ago that things turned around for you, though, up here. And that comes through. I've seen your posts. We've spoken on the phone. I remember when I first saw you, because you had posted on my group page, We Win, and it was this amazing photo of you with mine and Chuck Keel's haircut. We all share the same. Yeah,
it's under here. I got cold.
Right. No, I know how that is. I've got beanies in every color. I know. So something switched for you though. How does life feel? How does life feel to you today?
Well, you know what? Every morning when I woke up, the first thing in my head was, I have cancer. And that's the first thing I thought. And after thinking that for, I don't know, a month or so, I thought, you know what? I got to change my self-talk here. This is not, what you tell yourself, what you tell your brain, what you tell your body, it happens. And I kept saying, I have cancer, I have cancer. So one day I got up and I just said this, I came up with a new mantra, and it was I'm killing cancer every day. It was a book I read about a woman that had stage 4 cancer. So, I mean, as I get up, drag myself to the bathroom, and I'd say, I'm killing cancer every day. I'm killing cancer every day. I just kept repeating that. And it looks like it's working. I am killing cancer, but that self-talk is just so important. And I just realized there's just so much to live for. And, this is something I can beat. I'm a fighter.
And here you are.
I'm going to beat it, and I'm doing better.
You have a lot of friends here, that are looking out for you and holding you up. And I look forward to building our friendship over the many coming years.
Yes, me too. I'm gonna be okay. I've got a mastectomy in a couple of weeks, which sounds horrible, but it's just, I got to trust the process and get through this. I still got radiation every day for 5 weeks. I mean, it just never ends, but it will end, and I will be okay. So
it's so good to have you here. Thank you. So good to have you here.
Thank you.
So we will we'll be back. We'll bring you back up in a few minutes. Last but not least is my friend Terry Ranella. Hey, Terry. Oh, we can't hear you. Uh-oh. John, can we hear Terry?
Nope, not hearing her.
Okay.
Her mic is on, but not hearing her. Yep.
We lost volume. You know what? Yeah, we can't hear you. I think Terry, I think she understood my pantomime. So is she on mute, John? Can you see what the problem is?
Nope, she's not muted.
Okay. I'm gonna.
First thing is to get off and come back on for her.
Yeah, John, could you text her and let her know that?
She could hear you, Rick. So
Okay, Terry, you can hear me, right? Okay, we can't hear you. So if you could, here's what you should do. If you could disconnect and log back on, then we'll bring you back on. There we go. Okay, so we will get with Terry when she comes back on, hopefully with audio. She's got a great story. I've got to know Terry a little bit recently. Very, very inspirational. So I look forward to hearing her story. So in the meantime, let's just do this. We're already, we're well over an hour into this. Appreciate everybody on here for staying with us. Let's bring the group on together, John. And here we are. There's Chuck and Jennifer and Amanda and Rosanna and Trevor and hopefully Terry soon. Can everybody, we got great connections. Can everybody hear okay?
Yeah. Can hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, guys. And Terry is hopefully rejoining us. Terry, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We can hear you now. Terry,
Yes.
with all the love and respect in the world, I want to have you on next week and do a deep dive on a one-on-one if we can.
Yeah.
Since we have you here, but the group was already on, can you give us it is elevator pitch as format as possible what your story is?
So I will tell you you don't want me to tell my story?
Yes, but really fast, please.
I swear, I'll tell it so fast. All right. I promise I'll tell it fast. All right. So first of all, I was diagnosed with parotid gland cancer, squamous cell carcinoma. So that's a head and neck cancer in 2013, exactly 3 years after my mom and my brother died within 4 weeks of each other. I was a very successful executive sales leader, but I lived in fear my entire life. My cancer came back 3 times, and I kept working. And one morning I got up to go to work. The tumors were on the outside of my face. I touched one of them. It started to bleed. They had already been bleeding. And I ended up that day in ICU on a ventilator. Now, there's nothing like ending up on ICU on a ventilator to reevaluate your life. So, but basically, the cancer had come back 3 times. I refused to deal with it. I know for a fact that fear brought this cancer on. I was in ICU. I was tied down. I had a ventilator in. I couldn't speak. The oncologist that was treating me was a surgical oncologist from Sloan Kettering. She was out here. She came in the room. She said, we're going to do surgery when you get stronger. And what we're going to do is we're going to take your cheekbone and we're going to take your jawbone and we're going to go into your throat. And you're going to be on a feeding tube for the rest of your life. That'll be a 15-hour surgery. Then we're going to do 7 to 8 subsequent surgeries. And I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. But I'm like, no, not doing it. Now, 99.9% of the population would have gone through with what she recommended. I knew there was a better way, and I found it. I went through 1 year of treatments. Again, my cancer had come back 3 times and almost taken my life. I almost had a stroke that day too, by the way. I went through 3 years or a year of treatments where I was isolated, I was depressed, and I was suicidal. But my children, I have 4, 10 grandbabies, they kept me going. And today I am cancer-free, 4.5 years. I am living the best life ever. I am healthy. I am happy. I'm 62 years old. I'm a thriver. And what got me about you is you said you caused your cancer. And I believe the same thing. Was that short?
That's beautiful. Thank you. And I want to talk about that, what our brains do to us, to us when we bring the whole group on. Before we do that, you're doing amazing work in the space.
Yes.
What's the pitch on Terry's Flowers? Tell us about it, please.
All right. So 2017, I came out of cancer treatment a year when I told you I was isolated. I was rocking it. I was happy. I was going into the store one day. I saw all these people so unhappy. I live in a great neighborhood, and I'm like, what the hell? Excuse my language. And I bought flowers, 2 bouquets. And I came out and I handed one of them to a woman. And she said, what's this for? And I said, you know what? I want to spark some joy. So since 2017, I stopped when COVID came. I have handed out over 300 flower bouquets to random strangers. I have had people break down in parking lots saying, how did you know? I lost my husband 8 years ago in a tragic car accident. My birthday is tomorrow. How did you know? Well, I didn't know. God knew. And that is my movement to just bring joy to people because I'm so full of joy.
Being of service is huge. That's right.
And I also help cancer patients for free. I coach. I'm a transformational coach, but for free, I help cancer patients who are on the thick of it, with diet plans. I have a holistic nutritionist who's a good friend of mine on the team. I have MDs that help. I mean, we're out there just trying to do what we can to inspire, transform, and help.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Let's bring the group up together, if you would, John. And we are 7 for 7. That's amazing. And one thing I want to point out real quickly, 7 for 7, that's what I see here in this group of survivors and thrivers. And I think that comes across loudly and clearly, hopefully, to one another and to everybody that's watching, listening out there. I have so much in my mind I'd like to bring up, but I want to take a risk and throw it to open discussion for a moment. Is there anybody here that wants to say anything to anybody else in the group? Any thoughts you want to download? Let me do this first. Let me go to Trevor and Rosanna, since they're both in the battle right now. Rosanna, impressions about the group? Anything you'd like to share?
Well, I feel encouraged that I see that people have gone through it and they've come out the other side and they're living their best life and they're, they made it through. That's just so good to see because, I'm still in the middle of it here and wondering how am I ever going to get my life back? I mean, when am I not going to be bald? I mean, just the little things in life that, I'd like to get out and take a run. I mean, and it's great to see that you guys have gotten through it and with a smile on your face and your lives are enriched.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm feeling. And Trevor, I want to ask your opinion about that in a moment too. God forbid any of us were ever to face the battle again. I look at people like you, and I know what resources are available now, and I know what inspiration is available now, and it's such a great living example. And it brings me to a question. And I hope this isn't a bummer, but I want to ask this really quickly of Terry, Jennifer, and Amanda. On a scale of 1 to 10, do you guys fear recurrence? And the reason I ask this is I get this from a lot of people who are freshly in remission, and they talk about the fear of it coming back. I can tell you, I had my oncology follow-up yesterday, and it's been 3 years since my last one. The reason being, I forgot. That's how much I think about it these days. Maybe it's just time. I don't know, but it's great. So I used to have cancer dreams when I was first in remission about my cancers come back and now what. Scale of 1 to 10. And anything you want to share on that quickly, please, Jennifer. Fear of recurrence?
So I mean, I've been in remission now about 5 weeks, right? So absolutely. So I think about reoccurrence, but I'm not afraid of it. So I never thought I could do the things that I did. I never thought I could go through the treatments I went through. So I'm not afraid of it. But I do think about it.
I'm here to tell you that you absolutely can get to a point where it will not even enter your mind, and there's no reason for it to. I won't preach much, but I had to say that.
Well, I had it with the other 2 cancers, right? Thyroid cancer, they said, go out 5 years. Melanoma, go out 5 years. I got to that point, and then I got hit again. So, you know what? I hear you. I mean, it's not who I am. It doesn't define me. But I live my best life because of it. I do the things that I'm not sure if I'd ever do before.
Amanda, any thoughts about that?
On a scale of 1 to 10, fear is 0.
Nice. Good answer.
So I have a weird situation on that one too. I had my remission scan a month after I finished treatment, 5 weeks, whatever. And the oncologist never asked me to get another scan after that. He said, as long as the blood work was good, I was fine. And honestly, I don't even go for blood work anymore because deep down I know I'm fine, and I haven't in a few years, which I know I'm less than 5 years out is really ballsy and maybe irresponsible according to some, but I know I'm fine. And here's the thing, I feel like fear is what actually brings it on, and having those scans to get scared about is probably worse for a lot of people.
Yes.
So the anxiety is super real, and I think it's just as bad. I don't know. I personally agree. I forgot who was talking about this, that the fear is what brings the cancer on in many cases. There's a lot of layers, but I very much believe in the emotional component to the development of, but also the healing of. So it goes both ways. I no fear, you're in the clear.
The thing I want to get into is the subject of fear and how to turn that. A quick survey, though, guys. We are way past the time I thought we'd be at this juncture, and I hope you don't mind. I'm loving it. It's good by me. How's everybody for time? Anybody need to jump anytime soon? Okay, great. Okay. I want to point out before I ask that question to Terry and then go back to Trevor and Chuck. So from what Amanda just said, from what Jennifer said, from what I had to say, anybody out there who's in it right now, who's in the fight, or maybe recently in remission, think about how bad it can be. I know you do that. That's the reason a lot of people are here. We all did that. We were all in it. We all wondered if we'd ever survive. And now the 3 of us so far that have spoken to this are in a place where we just know we're cool. So it's all I wanted to point that out. Terry, thoughts about that?
Oh, fear 0, 0, 0.
Nice.
0, 0.
Nice.
I never think about it. I am a cancer thriver. I am cancer free. My cancer was so aggressive that less than a year after I went through treatments, my oncologist said, look, girl, if it hasn't come back now, it never will. I don't think about it. Now, what I do know is emotions can cause disease, especially cancer, and emotions can heal us. So fear is the biggest emotion around cancer, as far as I'm concerned. My brother died of cancer. I have multiple family members. I just lost a niece to cancer. They all lived in fear. So no, I have zero.
That's beautiful.
Zero.
So Trevor, watching this group, thank you. Watching this group tonight, what is it? What's the visceral reaction for you?
I'm fired up. Yeah, fired up for sure. I mean, it's such a great group, so much strength, all different backgrounds. We're just meeting each other and we're instantly connected because shared experience. So, you know, I think I thought one of my messages was going to be when I got diagnosed, I'd get my treatment, I'd get to cancer free, and I'd be like, hey, yeah, I kicked its ass, you can too. But I find myself in a different place that I'm still battling 3 years. I haven't had a break. So my message is a little different. It is more along the lines of you can still be cancering, you can still be in treatment and still trying to get to cancer free and live a full life with purpose. And I definitely want to get to cancer free, long-term remission, and join the people in that club too. I just wanted to, for those of you who are listening who are still in active treatment like me, you can have cancer all throughout your body and still live a vibrant life and still live with purpose.
Yes.
And yes, thank you. And then get to the point where you too will be, which will be in remission. I know
exactly. That. Yes.
And Chuck, you're in such an interesting place, man. I've talked to you on the phone now. I heard what you said loudly and clearly about how you look at where you are and what your doctors say. You know, first of all, I have to say this. My doctors, Peter Falk, who was in Colombo, Peter Falk from UCLA, amazing oncologist, Donald Skinner from UCLA, top guys in the world. They were wrong. They were absolutely, and I think they're great. I love these guys. They were absolutely wrong. And as I believe yours are with you, saying they can never give you that full pronouncement. Them saying that to you, how does that feel? How do you process that?
Oh, I don't feel bad at all because I understand that it's called a educated guess.
Okay.
So if they take a guy that's 50 years old that has stage 4 prostate cancer and they look at thousands of case studies, it's okay for them to say the average guy is only going to live maybe a year to 2 years after that diagnosis. But also you have to take in consideration, I don't consider myself an average guy.
I certainly would. Yes.
And something I want to add also is with this group and with myself is the fear factor going into this journey and through this journey. I don't know why, but just a couple weeks, and even while I was still in the hospital after my surgeries, I said in my head, I'm going to win this battle. I'm going to be around for my 2 boys. I already said that, and I don't know why. And I started putting it into motion. I mean, from walking my dog to swimming to running hills in the park, I started doing things and put them into action. So, you know, the thing is, it started early. And then the thing I love about this group is everybody kind of got to that point where they said, I'm winning this battle. And so when that happens in the mind, watch out because there's no stopping them. And that's what we're watching right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's beautiful. But thank you. Before we move on, I want to ask our wizard behind the curtain, John Paz. I'm hearing a little bit of interference. Is anybody else hearing that?
Yes.
I am. Yeah.
Somebody may have a second device on somewhere nearby. If you know, an iPhone, an iPad, whatever it might be. If you do, without having to raise your hand and say it was you, you shut it off if you don't mind. That's all. I think that's what's going on. All right. Wait a second for that, and if not, we'll work through it. All right. So fear is a crazy thing, and we could spend days examining how to turn fear, and it's been probably still never come up with the answer. But I want to put you all on the spot and ask you, for people that are watching and listening, they're getting a message, I'm sure, that goes something like this. Okay, if I didn't have fear, I'd be in a much better place. And here's the on the spot, putting you on the spot question. What is a really succinct answer each of us, one suggestion each, could give to people out there about something they could do tomorrow or today to better their situations? And I'll give you a quick example to start things off. I wrote a long dissertation that I posted on all the groups a few days ago on what I thought were the 8 ingredients to beat cancer. And I had a 7-way tie for a second. First one for me is the internal belief system, for sure. And we are what we choose to be, and we can spend all night on that. But one of my ties for 7 was this: you're feeling down. What can you do to make yourself better? And here, this is going to sound maybe a little specific, but that's the idea here. Go to Facebook, go onto a group where you see somebody that is really hurting and in a really bad spot, and someone you don't know, and write to that person, put on the comment, may I have your permission to message you? And if they give you permission, and 9 times out of 10 they will, we know that because you're on the groups, because you're looking to connect, reach out and be positive. If you're feeling down, you're feeling negative, reach out and give them something positive. If that person engages back with you, and they probably will, avoid the temptation to get into the story of what's making you feel negative. Stay positive, positive, positive. It's a little surface, maybe a little fake it till you make it, but I find that by being of service, it immediately takes me out of my space, gets me positive to be helping somebody else. That's one suggestion. Who's got a suggestion where somebody could do something today or tomorrow to help themselves out? Yes, Chuck.
So basically, with this crazy journey that I went on and this vision of Jesus in the situation, I really got strong with faith after this journey, because I seen what happened to my human body. So when I'm working with somebody and they've got a lot of fear and a lot of things going on, the way I look at it is cancer's way bigger than us. It's just bigger than us. And the reason why people have stress and worry and confusion is because they don't know what to do with it. And with faith involved, they can give those problems to God, which is a bigger source, so that they can go back to healing and less stress and love. And I talk about a lot of things with juicing and exercise and all these things also. But faith allows me to take stress off the table. And I love when I'm with somebody and they say, you know what, all of a sudden I've got to this place of calm. I know we're healing.
That is beautiful. Thank you. Yes, Rosanna, please.
I really find, and doing for others is great. And I, as a caregiver, I feel better when I'm helping others, but I really find that getting out in nature helps me a lot, and just kind of, trying to meditate a little bit, taking some deep breaths, walking on the beach in my bare feet, grounding, for some reason I can always, do a 360 when I'm feeling bad, by getting out in nature and just appreciating it, watching the birds, looking at the tree. I don't know. It just sounds corny, but it really works.
Absolutely. And that's a great suggestion. Thank you. Getting out of nature, turning to your faith, helping others. These are things that everybody out there, or most everybody, can do every day without question. Amanda, what can somebody do tonight or tomorrow to better their situation?
I always come back to gratitude, because we can always, if you're alive, breathing right now, there's something that you can be grateful for, which is actually that you're breathing. Sometimes you have to just bring it that baseline, but at least you're breathing right in this moment, and somebody's not. And the downward comparison sounds a little weird at first, but it actually really does help a lot. But from there, it's really realizing how much you really do have. The fact that you're in this body, and then I can bring it way up into the spiritual woo realm. We're all very, very lucky to be living this life, no matter how hard it is. Many souls wanted our spot. So
what's a good? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What method do you recommend people use to express their gratitude? Is it written? Is it verbal? What can they do tonight to express that?
I think whatever works, but I really like the journaling about affirmations, but journaling about what you're grateful for, because journaling brings the thoughts into the tangible reality. Once you write it down, it is in this physical realm. So it just makes it more tangible. And something about putting pen to paper, the motor skills, the eyes, it's all coming together. So you have the thought, you see it, you write it out, you're bringing every layer of your being into that reality of being grateful for whatever it is that you're grateful for. Be grateful for your pillow. Be grateful for the cup of water you have. It doesn't matter. And then you'll find that once you start finding things to be grateful for, poof, everything is around to be grateful for. The air, the molecules, the oxygen, the stars, I don't know, whatever. But obviously the people in your life, your puppy, the book, I don't know, everything. So it starts to roll and you start to realize how much you do have. And once you're in that space of abundance, life brings you more abundance. It brings you more health. So it's a frequency. Gratitude is a vibrational frequency that it breaks the threshold between the lower, heavier emotions and the more vibrant, expressive emotions. And once you're in that space, your body can actually heal. So gratitude is actually super powerful for healing. It will actually bring your body into the right frequency to be able to heal. So I always come back to gratitude.
Thank you. And I want to echo that for everybody out there. In my second critical medical battle, which is 2013 to 16, at the beginning of it, I got very, very down. And that was a time of life where everything started to change for me. I was depressed. I was addicted. I made myself homeless, a whole 9 yards. Pretty pathetic now when I think about it. I don't judge myself for it now about what I did to myself. And I'll tell you what started to get me out of it. Writing down 10 things I was grateful for every day. If you're out there and you're down, and I'll tell you, the first time I did it, Amanda, I wrote, I am grateful for my dogs. I have my 2 pit bulls with me. That's all. That was my whole list. I was so limited. I could not come up with a second one. And that's on me. If you're out there and you're having trouble, I implore you, get a pen, piece of paper, and force yourself to come up with 10 things that you're grateful for, and then read them after you've written them. Watch how it makes you feel. That alone can start you to healing.
You could even start with 3 and then challenge yourself to 4 the next day. All of that, just up it, all of that. And I just wanted to add that I know all this stuff because I know I'm super positive and everything's wonderful now, but obviously I've had my super lows. So that's why I know all this stuff works. I kind of gloss over that myself sometimes because I'm like, everything's wonderful. But yeah, I know this stuff because it took me a long journey to get here, and I wasn't diagnosed in a vacuum. I was not in a good place when I was diagnosed, mentally and emotionally. So yeah.
And before we go to Jennifer and Trevor, I want to echo something there too. You look at Chuck, you look at Terry, everybody on here is so positive and such bright lights. Amanda, and again, I can't speak for Chuck, I can't speak for Terry. Amanda just made the admission herself, as I did a few minutes ago. We've all been there, man. Chuck's nodding, Terry's nodding. If you're in a dark place, trust me when I say we all get it. We've all been there. That said, there's absolutely another place to go. No doubt about it. It's a choice. Jennifer.
It's so great listening to everyone. I guess the one thing I want to say is, so gratitude, I don't know how I learned about it, but it's been a thing. It's kind of been my mantra since I was a kid. I don't know. I don't know where it came from. But when I was diagnosed the 3rd time, I was in such despair. I was in such a black, dark place. I was in a terrible marriage. I was worried about leaving my kids and not having anyone raise them. And I remember I thought to myself, just put your feet on the floor And if your kids are breathing and you know they're breathing in their rooms, it's all good. And that's where I started from. I couldn't write down, if you asked me to write down one thing, I couldn't have written down one thing. I didn't have a pen. I couldn't even formulate a thought. It was just, excuse my language, holy shit, my kids are alive and I'm going to live and I'm going to raise them. And that was it. And it was sometimes that simple. And, Trevor, something you said about, you not being in the place in remission like us. So for me, it's 5 weeks in remission. I have literally had cancer and been a person with cancer for 20 years. When I was last diagnosed, so about 8 years ago, my daughter was 12, and she came to me and I had a surgery, and she said, "Mom, you have cancer again." And it was an incredibly emotional moment. And I'm sorry. I said, I do have cancer again. And she said, "But Mom, that's okay. People live with cancer." And that was it. And it was like, I got this tidbit, this little thing from this 12-year-old kid who sees her friends' mothers and parents that pick up in the pickup line with scarves on or balding or whatever. "Mom, it's okay. You're not, people live with cancer." And I think that's really, I think remission is wonderful. I never expected to get here. I think it's the best thing in the entire world. But we are living in a time where emotionally, spiritually, physically, and mentally, we can all get there. And if we have to live with it, you know what? We can still live our best lives. We don't have to be in remission to live our best lives. I lived my best life for the last 7.5 years. I really did while I was going through all of that. That was my best, most transformative part of my life. So I just wanted to say that.
Well, that's amazing. Wow. That's powerful. Thank you. Thank you. So it's not that for anybody who's in the fight right now, it's not that your life can be so great once you're in remission, because it can be, right, but it may not be. Also, it's going to be up to you. But the takeaway, it's an obvious one. Your life could be great starting today. And thank you for that. That's beautiful. Trevor, I know you had something that you wanted to add.
Yeah, that's Jennifer. Well, that's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. That really hits me. And especially because I have kids around that age that say the same similar things, like they lead me more than I lead them a lot of times. I think it's the other way around, but great tips on turning around mindset. Mine is to find your Patty. So Patty is my therapist. I'm a verbal processor, and my wife is sick of hearing from me. So, and you don't want to, I don't want my wife to be my therapist. So I see Patty when I need to, which is now maybe once a month. But I have all this stuff inside me that I don't know that I need to get out until I talk to Patty. So I'm just saying, for those of you who are verbal processors, there's exploration and learning and healing through having someone to talk to, whether it be even a friend, but talking to that friend or a counselor to get out the stuff that you might not even know is in there. And so that's my tip. And I just wanted to touch briefly on fear. And I love I love that we can respect each other's places on this. So for me, I do experience fear occasionally. And I feel like my approach is, I don't believe that fear is fueling my cancer. That's not my relationship with fear. Mine is that I feel like it's a God-given emotion, and usually it's love or sadness trying to get out. And what I mean by that is, I love the people. I love this earth. I love all my family, and I want to be with them. So that fear sometimes emerges when I have a thought that says, gosh, it'll be really hard for that to end. And so my approach is to get right up close to that fear and say, what is this that my inner mind or my spirit is trying to tell me? And then it just passes. So I experience my fear and then I let it move on. But I try not to get into this place of self-blame where if I have a scared thought, I start thinking, I can't think like that because I'm going to harm my health. So I feel like pressing sometimes fear, anger, sadness can also be detrimental to health as well. And that's sort of my philosophy around. I totally respect it. everyone's philosophies around how they handle that.
Well,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just want to say I am 0% about toxic positivity and like bypassing those emotions. I'm 100% on the same page with you. I just want to say, like, the more you start to confront those emotions, the more the fear dissipates. So yeah, I really am in a place where I don't have no fear about nothing about these days, but I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks. I'm like, I have very little fear anymore. Do I have little niggles of like, well, I don't really know what's going to happen. Yeah, but I'm not scared of it. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's not like opposing theories on it at all. In my perspective, it's working through it. You have to actually confront it in order to be able to understand what that emotion is. So yeah, you're 100% correct. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
And once you go through so much fear, you're not afraid of anything anymore.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Yeah, and thank you all for that. Thank you for that, Amanda.
Can I add a tip?
Oh yeah, Terry, go ahead, please. Of course.
I love all your tips. I do them all. You guys are so awesome, and I'm very humbled to be here. One of the things that I say, and I figured out going through cancer, losing all of my siblings, losing my parents, is love heals all. Mm-hmm. And so multiple times a day, and this is from Dr. Joe Dispenza, who is absolutely the most amazing man in the world. I do all his meditations. I follow his philosophy. I open my heart. And to do that, I tap my heart 3 times and say, I am love, I am love, I am love. Your heart emits more energy than any other organ in your body, and people can feel it. And it's scientifically proven. So love heals all. Chuck, connecting with the divine, connecting with your higher source, whatever that is for you, absolutely will cure you of anything. And I do it every single day, and I suggest it. And
so Terry, I love that, and it's so specific, which I think we're looking for, to give people something to take away. So this might be a little goofy. I hope not. I want to ask all of you. Terry, can you lead the 7 of us through one round of that real quickly?
So what I do is,
yes,
the first thing I do is I think of my higher power.
Okay.
And then I think of someone that I absolutely love and adore. Now, I have 4 children and 10 grandbabies. So you know what? It's super easy. So I'll just think of my little guy, our youngest grandchild. He's 1. He's an absolute joy all the time. I think of Arlo, love in my heart. I tap my heart 3 times. I am love. I am love. I am love. I think of Arlo, and I just admit that love. And I do that multiple times a day. I do it first thing in the morning. I do it when I feel stressed. I do it when I feel fear.
And there's something that everybody out there can do starting tonight. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trevor, I wanted to touch on a couple of things you said as well. Can you go back to that word love? Because a few minutes ago, you said, I love, and then you named a whole bunch of different things. And the conviction you said that with was very resonant. And I want to point out again to everybody out there, this was from the guy who told you not terribly long ago he couldn't get off the floor. So there is a living example of energetic change right there for a guy who's in the thick of it right now. Such a great example for that. And I also wanted to touch on something else you said about therapy. Now, when I was in the hospital, was 40 years ago. Wow. I had one appointment with a therapist. Now, I think I was 17 at that time. And dude, a 17-year-old boy did not want to be hanging out with a therapist. It was a sissy thing to do. You just, so I did one appointment and I'm like, nope, that's for sissies. And that was it. And, you know, these days I have 2 therapists and I love them both. They're great. I talk to one once a week, the other one once every 2 weeks, and it's great. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And your Man Up for Cancer group is exactly, that's what it's about. Guys, because you're right. The cancer groups out there are largely female. Because female, as we all know, are better with their emotions than us guys are for the most part. Guys, find a therapist and find a way to get it done. You know, if you don't have the pocketbook for it, there's all kinds of resources available where you can get therapy. I wanted to echo that. Thank you for that.
Thanks, Rick.
Chuck.
Hey, and just to add a little bit to that also, these social media groups, these people on here that have been through cancer that now are coaching and reaching out, this is a great place for people to go. I know that I deal with a lot of people that they just said they can't flat out afford to have a therapist, and I became their therapist. I mean, I'm a guy that actually not only has went through it, but my wife is in stage 4 breast cancer right now and in radiation and chemo. And what happened was I send them out to different social media sites. I send them onto our website to watch the Cancer Roadmap Project to extend when they maybe can't afford, but I can spend some time with them and then say, go watch 5 videos, and then next week we'll catch up, and I want to see how you're doing, how your treatment's, how your family's doing, how you're doing mentally going through this battle. So there's a lot of really neat resources out there. And I love it when it's a cancer survivor or a cancer thriver that is using their personal experience to help other people.
You know, Chuck, that's great. And I want to mention, and I hope none of you are going to kill me for this. I think you're all going to be really cool about it. There's a lot of stuff to sort through. And thankfully, there's a lot of resources available out there. The 7 of us, I'm going to volunteer for all of us. I hope you don't mind. We're all resources for you. We're all on Facebook. We're all easy to find.
Yep.
You have a question about a resource we talked about or anything else, write to us. I know you'll hear back. Just wanted to mention
something I wanted to add.
Yes, Rosanna.
I just find that when I'm still new to cancer, but I became like obsessed with it. It was all I could think about. How am I going to get better? How am I going to be positive? I got to eat kale. I got, green tea, blah, blah, blah. And what really helped me was to kind of get my mind off of it a little bit. But my sisters, got me some paints, and I'm like, I can't paint. Well, I started painting, and I'd sit there for an hour or two, and I don't paint well, but my mind was not on cancer for that couple of hours, or working out or something. It's nice to get away from it sometime, and I really feel like that gives my mind a break, takes the stress away, and just kind of gets me through it. I mean, so that's just something that's really helped me.
So that's great, and it's important. That's one of those critical components. I'm very about my physical fitness these days, and I'm not going to promote or endorse anything in the public here. But anybody out there have any questions about it, I'm glad to send you links for resources. Absolutely. Thanks for that, Rosanna.
I just there's just something I want to say that it's really important to remember that if you're authentic and if you're really having a crappy day and a really bad day, it's okay to just tell someone, because I guarantee you somebody knows somebody where they've experienced a bad day themselves. So it's the most important thing for me has been about trying to be as authentic as you possibly can. If you're feeling joy, jump out in the middle of the street. If you're really feeling low, call up a friend. But it's, we really aren't, we don't have to be superheroes just because we have cancer. We're just regular people with cancer, right? We don't have to be superhuman and do things that other people can't do. We have, so just be really gentle, be good to yourself, find a support system. There's so much online. There's so many resources, so many nonprofits that offer a help to people that are looking for help, but just be good to yourself. I mean, you're going to get through this, but just take it one day at a time. That's really what I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Guys, we have had you on for 2 solid hours now. Thank you for that. So I know it's late for some of you, especially who's on the East Coast again? Rosanna? I know.
Good night.
Wow. Amanda, you're at a resort in Mexico. You don't count. Oh, that's all right. I appreciate all the time you guys have spent. I have a wrap-up question for whoever wants to answer it. You all don't have to, and you're all welcome to. And I would definitely love to hear from Trevor and Rosanna and Chuck on this first, if you don't mind. Where do you see yourself 2 years from now?
Well, I'll say I'd see myself completely cured. I'm going to have some hair, and I'm going to be past this, and I'm going to be helping others who have the same journey. You know, you can't have any negativity about it. It's just got to be that way.
I love that. Thank you. The only thing I want to interject and kind of disagree with there is I think you might want to consider keeping the haircut. It looks good on you.
Hey, so Rick, 2 years from now, I am going to be taking a lot of photos at Sage's high school graduation and celebrating that. And maybe I'll be coming back on your show, and we're going to talk about meeting each other and having this first show a couple of years ago, and
awesome.
and how the journey's gone between now and then.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, you know, this journey was such a life-changing experience that I just dove in to help as many people as I possibly could. So with Living Hope Cancer Foundation, we're growing, and we're getting emails from Pakistan and South Africa and Australia. And what I really believe is this kind of love and this kind of just experience and sharing it. I'm trying to create a group that will change the world. And I know people might laugh when they hear that, but we're moving, and we're making a difference. And if it's making somebody that's going through this journey smile today, that's pretty special. And another thing that I want to add before we get out here, Rick, if I can, is I want to do a special shout out to the caregivers that are going through this with their cancer patients, and they're going through cancer just like we are. They can't sleep. They lost weight. They're going through it too. And the reason why that this is a big reminder to me is because my wife with stage 4 breast cancer right now, I went from the stage 4 cancer guy to a caregiver, and I don't like letting her out of my sight. I mean, the farthest I go from the house is a mile to the gym and then back to the house. And I've got my phone on in case she needs me. But caregivers are so special, and they don't get much credit, and I want to give them all a big, huge virtual hug. You know, I know what you're going through, and it's a cancer battle, and I love every single one of you that have stepped up to help somebody they love.
Thank you for that. So important to people in our lives. Absolutely. Man, guys, we could go all night. I could anyway. It's been such a profound privilege having all of you on, and I wanted to say that before we get to our wrap up. Terry, Rosanna, Trevor, Amanda, Chuck, Jennifer, thank you. You guys are all amazing. I hope to have the opportunity to do a one-on-one with all of you. If you don't mind, that would be fantastic to get deeper into your work and more of your story. Thanks for sharing yourselves so openly and honestly. If we, collectively inspired even one person tonight, we did our job, and I just know that we've done that. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. And to wrap up, I'm not familiar with everybody's faith here or not. I think we're all in a place where we believe that believing in something greater than ourselves is something we need in our lives. So with that, if you don't mind, I invited a new friend who's very quickly become a very good friend on to join us. Yeah, many of you are familiar with her work in this space. Her name is Bailey O'Brien, and Bailey is a woman of great faith, and I think she's coming up right now. I see the name Bailey on the screen. The miracles of modern technology that always at work here on Talking Tough, and we win. Bailey, can you hear us out there? All right, we don't. Hopefully she'll join us in a moment. If not, Bailey was and still may was gonna close us out with a prayer. So I don't have a closing prepared since Bailey was going to do that. Let me improvise real quickly. I think everybody on here is. Oh, and there we go. Right. Hi, Bailey.
You're on, Bailey.
Houston, we are having technical difficulties. That's all right. Well, it's always nice to see you, Bailey. If you can hear us, we can see you, and I appreciate you being willing to come on and close us out. Where I think we may want to close then instead. Well, let's do this. All right. I know that I know Chuck's a man of faith, so maybe in a moment I can put you on the spot, and you could you could lead us out. Everybody out there, please know there always is another day and a better day. And I think everybody on here has proven that day after day after day that there's always hope. Chuck, if you want to take us hi, you're Chuck. Yes.
Oh, Bailey's back.
Let's give it one last shot. Bailey, can you hear us? All right. Well, it's nice to see you again. Chuck, if you want to lead us out with a prayer, that would be great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dear God, thank you for this time together. Thank you for these new friends you put in our path. Thank you for Rick organizing this whole event tonight. I know that you have plans for every single person on here. I know you have plans for the people that tuned in to watch this event. I hope that we hope and pray that this blesses their heart, blesses their mind, so that they can get through this crazy journey called cancer that we've all been affected by. We always say that cancer is it's not a sentence, it's a situation, and we want to bless everybody, and we pray for some miraculous healing. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you all.
Thank
Hope
you.
to see you all soon.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Love you guys.
Thanks, Rick.
Wow.
Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Wow.
And we are out. Great work behind the scenes by John Paz tonight. Thank you so much, John. Man, that was strong and powerful. And John, you've got my platforms up, which I did not promote once at all, so I need to, please. I'm on Instagram, everybody. There's my IG address, Rick_Bassman. Please check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/Rick Bassman. The Facebook group that we're running that's really been amazing is right here, Facebook groups, We Win Now. Website, of course, talking-tough.com. Darn, that's a lot of platforms. Anyway, I at a loss for words doesn't happen often. That was an amazing group. There's living examples. As I said, I'm just going to repeat the last thing I said. There's always hope and always a chance for a better day and a better life. Take action. We're here for you. We're your resources. Wish you all the very, very best on your journey, whatever it is you're going through. Rick Bassman signing off live on Maui for Talking Tough.